Well, morning, folks. Hard to say good with all the things that are going on in the world here today. And obviously, we're not happy campers here in eastern Pennsylvania with day 76 remote. But it is the 1st of June, and that makes it the start of meteorological summer. So I thought we'd do a quick recap here of spring across the world. This is meteorological spring, 1 March through 31 May. Is officially in the history books. About 1.3 degrees warmer than last year on a national U.S. scale, making it the 13th warmest spring in 35 years, above average in the U.S. Looking at some of the hotspots, Russia was the warmest in 35 years, so very warm across Russia. Europe, warmest in 6 years. U.S., warmest in 3. U.K., warmest in 3 as well. On the cool side was India, coolest in 5 years. Still obviously warm, but coolest in 5 years. Brazil, coolest in 5. Canada, coldest in 6 years. And down under Australia for their fall season, coldest in 8 years. Looking at precip here in the U.S. was drier than last year, but again, it was feast or famine, depending on where you were. 9th wettest in 35 years with above average U.S. precipitation here. Looking at these trends again day by day. Now this is a year-over-year projection on the U.S. level. So again, we had a very, very warm March, much warmer than the last few Marches. In fact, that was, I think, the 3rd hottest March in history here in the U.S. So a very, very good start to spring. Seasonal merchandise sales for if you look at some of the retailers that did really well this quarter was the Home Depots, the Lowe's, the Walmarts, the Targets, obviously grocery stores, the Wayfairs, online folks, Costco, BJ's, really anyone that had a really great e-commerce platform. We were still buying stuff, still buying a lot of spring merchandise, but really doing that obviously online with COVID-19. So again, retailers have that great platform, tend to do better than those obviously that were brick and mortar stores that were pretty much shut down. Much cooler April there in the middle of the month, and then a cool start to May, but then a warm finish. And that warm finish, much warmer than last year, is going to continue here through June, at least for most of the month, it appears, on a national scale. If, again, that precip was, again, feast or famine. On the dry side here, this is a spring rainfall across the U.S. Minnesota, driest in 35 years for a state level. Wyoming, 2nd driest in 35 years. North Dakota, 2nd driest. South Dakota, 4th driest. Utah also 4th driest, Colorado 5th, and even here in the east, New York, New Jersey, just outside our area here, 8th driest in 35 years. So it's dry pretty along the east coast here. We had a lot of gloomy days, but didn't produce a ton of precip. On the very wet side was obviously South Carolina with that tropical system last week, number 1 wettest in 35 years. Georgia, 3rd wettest. Michigan, obviously with their flooding, 3rd wettest. Ohio, 5th wettest. Arizona, 5th wettest as well. It's interesting, again, just looking at California and Arizona. Northern part very wet, dry, very dry in southern Arizona. California the opposite, very, very wet in the south and dry to the north. So again, it was feast or famine across the U.S. here this spring for terms of rainfall. This week, 1 through 7 June, again, the start of meteorological summer. 1.4 warmer than last year. That makes it the warmest in 9 years and 2nd warmest in 35 years with the much above average national temperatures. A little misleading here in the east. It looks like we're on the seasonable side, but actually it's a cold start, pretty chilly here this morning in the 40s here outside our studios. But we're going to warm up pretty big time here. So we'll be back in the 80s here midweek. So a warm finish for sure in the east. Drier than last year, 9th driest in 35 years. Looks like a lot of precip out there, but it's just, again, thunderstorm activity. We'll have to watch for some severe weather in the upper Midwest here this week. Again, so kind of but tornadic activity has actually been down below average and way below last year. So, but something to watch here in the upper Midwest for their, start of their severe weather season. Looking at the hurricane season here, obviously off to a fast start. We've had 2 named storms already. Likely we're going to have number 3 here, so very concerned about number 3. And now's the time to prepare. Really, this is going to be a potentially very devastating season for sure. Everything, cycles all point to this. So really need to prepare as if you're going to get something next week. You should be preparing like that right now all along the Gulf Coast here. Our year-ahead outlook, again, highlighted Louisiana, Florida, and New England as the high-risk areas, but again, everyone should be prepared at this stage. Looking at the models, we actually see that a system, Amanda, that's in the Pacific, so it's the first named Pacific storm, is actually going to cross Central America and head into the Gulf of Mexico. So kind of unusual to see that happen, but that certainly looks like the case here. Models are suggesting at least a tropical storm potential by late this weekend into early next week. This is just one model guidance suggesting that it could make landfall somewhere around the Houston, Texas, Louisiana border there. Again, Monday next week. Again, very much subject to change, but anyone really in the Gulf Coast should be keep an eye on this because these things can flare up quickly and it could be much stronger than a tropical storm. Or it could be nothing. But definitely something to be concerned about here with this system crossing Central America here. Looking at next week, second full week of June here, 8 through 14 June. 2.9 degrees warmer than last year, 8th warmest in 35 years. So again, above average national temperatures. Rain-cooled air there in the south central U.S. So we'll see about that. Wettest in 16 years. You see that big blob of purple of very heavy rainfall in Texas, Louisiana. We'll see, again, exactly where that system may make landfall, but again, something to watch for sure. So with that, folks, we hope you have a great week, and we'll be back here this time next week.